What up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Funboxing with Will. I'm your host, Will, with H2OCO Film and Photo, and today we're going to be doing another EDC knife review of a classic that's recently been reimagined with a new steel, the Native 5 by Spyderco, the Salt variant. So let's get into that review, guys.
Christmas is coming, start sending your letters off to Santa. Christmas is coming, yeah. Better be nice if you want your present. Tell all your brothers, sisters, mom.
Alrighty, everybody, now before we get over to the top-down setup, as always, I'd just like to take a brief second out of my video to thank all of my viewers. Anybody who's just stopping in for this particular video, or any of the people who have been along for the ride since I started this channel, or who have subscribed to my channel, I really appreciate you guys. I've been doing this content for about 3 years now, and recently I've become a single father, so it's been hectic trying to keep the weekly video schedule on point. I've noticed that it's been drifting to kind of like I put out a video every 2 weeks. So I'm really trying to get back onto that 1 week schedule. I just have two very young sons that I'm doing everything for by myself. So schedules have been kind of hectic, that with full-time working and everything like that. So, but like I said, we're gonna be doing a review of the Native 5 Salt today that they've recently upgraded to magnasteel. And if you guys like tech reviews or like EDC knife reviews and this is your thing, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button, and maybe turn on those bell notifications to get notified when I put out new content. Like I said, I try to get it out weekly, but lately it's been every 2 weeks. I always have new content coming out though, so turn on those notifications and it'll notify you when I put out a new video. Other than that, we're going to get over to the top-down setup to take a closer look at this Native 5 Salt in magnasteel by Spyderco. So let's get over to that top-down setup and take a closer look at this knife. Alrighty, everybody, now that we're over here at the top-down setup, we can take a closer look at this classic EDC from Spyderco reimagined. Basically, this is a newer version of the Native 5 Salt variant from Spyderco. Now, Spyderco has a long history with their Native line. It's been around for a very long time. It is a very popular knife in their models. In their model lineup, basically. And they have multiple variants of this knife. It's come out, I believe, in S30V before. It's come out in different steels. I believe they used to have it in LC200N and H1, were the two steels that their Salt line carried. And if you're unfamiliar with Spyderco's Salt line, they have a line of knives specifically dedicated to maritime use or marine use, for boating, for going on rivers, things that would put you around salt water or water in general. And in the past, they've used, like as I mentioned, the LC200N or the H1 steel in their lineup because those are the two steels, as far as I am aware, that they're not just corrosion resistant, they're dang near rust proof. Those things are so hard to rust. I've seen some test videos on, I think it was Blade HQ's channel, where they had literally taken some salt water from the Great Lakes and they had put a whole bunch of different knives basically suspended from strings and popsicle sticks in these cups that they filled with salt water from the Great Salt Lakes. And they left them in there for weeks on end. And now when they did that, at the end of the test, they pulled them out, and the LC200N, the H1, and the MagnaCut, funny enough, none of them rusted at all. Any rust that was on those knives basically was able to be wiped off, and any other rust that you saw on those knives. In that one test that I saw, it came from the hardware in the knife and not the blade itself. So this year they had switched up their line on the Salt to the MagnaCut steel, CPM MagnaCut, which this model is in CPM MagnaCut. Now, MagnaCut, as I have mentioned in a few of my other videos, has quickly become one of my favorite steels. Up to this point, S35VN and S45VN, along with like M390, 20CV, those were some of my favorite steels. And they're regarded as some of the top end steels you can get in the market right now, because they do have, you know, really good corrosion resistance. Their edge retention is off the charts, and I mean, it's not anything like Rex 27, but it is really good edge retention. And then along with those, these blade steels are fairly easy to sharpen, and that is one of the biggest problems people come across with knives that have very high edge retention. Is you will get a knife that has a super high edge retention, something that you don't have to sharpen very often. Well, the problem is that when you do have to sharpen those knives eventually, they can be very difficult to sharpen because of how hard the steel is and how abrasive resistant it is. So a lot of times with those steels, you need to have like diamond stones to sharpen those steels. Well, MagnaCut recently came out, I believe in 2021. Laren Thomas is the owner of knifesteelnerds.com, I'm sorry. And he has a couple doctorates in metallurgy, and he had reached out to CPM Crucible basically and told them that he had this new recipe for a new steel that he wanted them to make. And so far, the steel has tested off the charts as far as being one of the most well-rounded steels ever seen. I don't believe that this steel has the same edge retention as, say, S35VN or S45VN. But, you know, I think that also could depend a lot on the heat treat. A lot of companies don't heat treat MagnaCut to its, I guess, best potential. I have a Rick Hinderer knife that I think has a little bit softer of a heat treat on the MagnaCut, and I think that's because it's meant for hard use. So a lot of times with harder use knives, they will tend to treat the metal to be a little bit softer. But I've heard that with MagnaCut, with like between a 62 and a 65 Rockwell hardness, is some of the best edge retention you're going to get in a knife, and especially with the corrosion resistance where it's at, it's just a very well-rounded steel, and it's still something that is fairly easy to sharpen. So, like I said, it's quickly moved to the top of my list as far as knife steels are concerned. I really do enjoy using it. And the main reason I purchased this knife, other than just to add it to my collection, seeing as it does not fall in the typical line of knives that I collect. If you followed my channel, you'll know I am all about fidget factor in a knife, and finger safe locks and one-handed deployment and put away. You know, I appreciate these things in my collection in my knives, and a lot of these things the Native 5 does not have. It is easily opened one-handed. If you have any kind of dexterity in your thumb, you can open this very easily one-handed, but a lot of people will have to close this two-handed. I can do it with one hand, and a lot of people, you know, who have good coordination can do it with one hand, but there is an inherent, you know, risk to having a lockback knife, which this is a lockback. So you basically have to drop it and then use your thumb to close it. And there is a brief period of time where your thumb is in the cutting path of the blade with a lockback unless you use two hands to close it. So these are little things that attribute to me having this knife fall outside of my general carry criteria for the most part. But the one thing that I do like about this knife, and the reason I bought this knife specifically, is because I wanted something that I could basically use as a beater knife. I could take with me on outdoor excursions, like to the Salt River, to, you know, up hiking in the mountains, something like that I could take outdoors and not have to worry about, you know, the knife having corrosion issues or, you know, losing the knife. The bright yellow handle scales, which are FRN scales, by the way, fiberglass reinforced nylon, basically. They are very sturdy. I like them. They're not. It's funny because they look cheap. You'd think that, oh, that's a plastic handled knife, it's pretty cheap. But when you look close at the details of the chamfering that they've done on the rounding off on the edges where your fingers go, and just the quality of the FRN and barely any flex when you push on that thing. It's really shocking how durable and well made this is. Another one thing I wanted to bring up about the quality of this knife is something I noticed on the breakaway. So with a lockback knife, essentially you have a spring somewhere in here, and then you've got this back plate, this piece of metal steel back here that locks with the blade interface right here. Well, you push down on this and it breaks the blade down, collapses it, and you can fold it. If you were to look at this, where would you assume when I push this down, the blade's gonna break away? When I first got it, would just assume that it's gonna be right here where that smooth piece of steel starts the jimping. Well, this is so well manufactured and so well put together that that's not the case actually. When I break it away, watch. Some of the jimping is actually on the back spacer, the back spring, which that blew my mind when I saw that and how well that was built. I didn't even notice that. I was sure when I first got this knife that the breakaway would have been right there where the smooth portion of the steel ends. And it's just so well machined, and so the tolerances are so tight that no, that's not it at all. It actually breaks away halfway through the jimping. And that right there is just, that's quality construction right there. And with the blade steel, this blade specifically is going to be a very slicey blade. It is going to have a full flat grind on this blade. I don't know, now this is very rare for me. I don't generally, when I do these reviews, I will do my due diligence and I will research everything about them so that I can provide you guys with the most accurate information. When I went to look, because at first I assumed this would be on washers. You know, this would probably be on phosphor bronze washers, considering that it is a lockback knife. I'm positive it's not on bearings. While doing my research, I can't find an accurate answer to this question, basically. Some people are saying this is actually on bushings. Other people are saying that it's on nylon washers. Other people are saying that it's on phosphor bronze washers. If you know anything about Spyderco, you know that they use red Loctite in their knives. Full disclosure, I have taken apart probably 100 knives. I've modded my knives. I've worked on my knives. I've even taken them apart to clean them at times. I've never taken a Spyderco knife apart. I have about 4 of them, and I have the PM2, the PM3. I've got this one. I've got the Manix 2. I've never had a reason to take any of those Spyderco knives apart. But from every review I've seen or teardown video that I've seen, they all have red Loctite out of the warehouse, which is a permanent Loctite that you have to heat up with something before you can get them to break loose. And especially when you're dealing with T6 Torx, you don't want to strip them. So I've just never done it myself. Otherwise, I would have taken this apart just to find out whether these are bearings or well, I'm sorry, not bearings, bushings or washers. So if anybody knows whether the Native 5 runs on washers or bushings, please go ahead in the comments and let me know. I would love to know that. We're all learning, you know, I do reviews, but I'm only human. I make mistakes and I am not almighty and all knowing. So there are definitely things that you guys out there in the community can help me learn too and grow with. So if anybody knows that information, please comment. Don't hesitate to let me know what the reality of the situation is. I'd love to know what this is riding on. I want to say maybe it is bushings because of the action. This is very similar. The lock is identical to what they put on a Buck 110, and I know the Buck 110 runs on bushings. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe all lockback knives have a tendency to run on bushings. I'm not sure how that works, but as far as size goes, this is definitely what I would consider to be a medium to small knife. I really love the ergonomics on it. The ergos are perfect. Like most Spydercos, you can get a good grip. I can get a full 4-finger purchase, and I consider myself to have a large glove hand, and I still have a little bit of pommel sticking out, and this is in the traditional saber grip. And then you can choke up, obviously, with that finger choil. That's a generous finger choil that they give you there, and I love that about this ergonomics on Spyderco knives. This blade, like I said, is going to be very slicey. I've only been using this knife for about a week and a half now, but over that time period, I've definitely enjoyed using it, and it's proven itself to be a very slicey blade. And as I've said in the past, anything I think under 500 thousandths of an inch is going to be very slicey. The closer you get to 500 thousandths of an inch, the less slicey the blade gets, in my opinion. But on this one right here, we're going to do a blade stock thickness, and it's going to come in at 940 thousandths of an inch as the stock thickness goes. And then right behind the edge, we're gonna have a super slicey measurement of, let's try that again. We're gonna get 290 thousandths of an inch. So 290 thousandths of an inch is definitely what I would consider to be a slicey knife there. Like I said earlier, it's what I would consider to be a small, medium to small size knife. We're gonna get you some measurements here. Your full length measurement is going to come out to just under 7 inches total full length measurement. It's gonna come out to 6.8 inches right there. Your blade length on this baby is going to be 2.65 inches, and then your closed length on this one is going to be, let's see here, closed length is going to be exactly 4 inches on this. So definitely something that I could suggest for anybody who's going to go hiking or wear something like a pair of gym shorts, or, you know, just relaxing around the house. You're going to be able to carry this in pretty much anything. You know, some of the downsides to it that I don't like is the fact that it doesn't have a deep carry clip. Most Spyderco knives have these standard clips, and they do an amazing job with their clips, don't get me wrong. I am just a fan of deep carry, and this has a good significant portion of the knife that sticks above the pocket, proud out of the pocket. So it's just not something that, if I could get, and I'm pretty sure you can get third-party clips that are deep carry from this from MXG. I've gotten them for a lot of other knives, Spyderco knives specifically, so I'm almost positive you can find them for this model as well. This is going to be an ambidextrous knife because it is a lockback, and it does have the ability to swap the clip out. You can actually, with most Spydercos, put them in 4 different positions here, so you can carry tip up or down, left or right, which is, you know, versatility. So we got to give them props for putting the versatility in there. Then we're going to do a hardware check real quick for you guys. And this one here is definitely, like I said, with that permanent Loctite that they put on their Spyderco knives, I wish they would put T6 screws in the back, but these are going to be, your body screws are going to be T6, or I'm sorry, you know what? I actually think that I'm wrong on this. All of these are going to be T8, which is nice. All of the body screws are T8. The pivot is going to be T8. The only T6s that you're going to have on this one is actually for that pocket clip. So this is actually one of the models that they did do some forward thought into, and they did not put T6 in all of them, which is, I like seeing that a lot. T6 are notorious for stripping, and T8s, they just have, the Torx bits just have a lot less of a likelihood that they're going to strip. So when companies put T8s in their body screws, I really do appreciate that. And then you've got the 1 pin there in the knife. Lastly, we're going to just do a blade size comparison here to a couple other knives to give you a good idea of how this might carry for you. Here are some other common EDCs from Spyderco. Again, the PM3 right there. The PM3 is one of my favorite knives from Spyderco, and it is actually roughly the same size. The blade shape is a little different, and the PM3 has it by about 1/2 of an inch or so, but it's close to the same size there. Here it is next to the Andrew Dempko AD 20.5, so it's going to be a little bit smaller than that one. Here it is next to the Benchmade Bug Out, a very popular EDC carry. Then we're going to go ahead and put it next to the Hogue Doug, the Doug Hogue Ritter right there. Or, I'm sorry, the Hogue Doug Ritter right there, which you can also replace with the Benchmade Griptilian anytime you'd like. They're almost identical, and all the specs are identical, so they are the same exact size. And then lastly, here it is next to the Chris Reeves Inkosi. So as you can tell, it's not a huge honking knife. It's not a super small knife, but it falls somewhere in that category of just in between. And then I forgot one last thing, actually, weight. This is going to be a very lightweight knife. So if something like, if you're used to carrying something like a Cold Steel or something in your pocket that weighs you down, this is definitely not going to be that. This is going to be something very lightweight that you can take pretty much anywhere, as I was saying earlier. So let's go ahead and switch this over to ounces. I want to say let's go with 2.8 ounces. Let's see if I'm close. Darn it. 2.4 ounces. I was kind of close, but yeah, 2.4 ounces. So Definitely anything under 3 ounces I would consider very manageable in pretty much anything that you wear. And all around, like I said, I'm going to keep this as a knife that I can take outdoors, that I don't have to worry about losing or breaking. It's got a very good steel in it. It's very visibly noticeable in the distance with this salt scale, the bright yellow scales, and I wouldn't have to worry about losing this knife because amazingly this only comes in at $151 plus tax. So it wasn't like I spent $300-400 on this knife. It was under $200. So at the end of the day, if I end up losing it, I'm gonna feel like crap that I lost it, but at least it wasn't something like my PM3 or my Chris Reeves, you know. And so basically this is just gonna be a beater knife for me, something to take outdoors to, you know, carry around with me. But yeah, that's about it for today's review, guys. Hopefully this will help you determine whether or not this knife is something that you would like to acquire for your own collection or not. And other than that, we're gonna get back over to the desktop setup so that we can go ahead and finish up this video. I'd like to thank you guys for coming along and checking out the Native 5 Salt with me today. Let's get back over to the desktop. Alrighty, well, that's it for today's video, guys. If you guys liked the content that you saw or found any of this information at all informative, please go ahead, hit that like, subscribe button, and turn on those bell notifications to get notified when I put out new content. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe, stay sharp, and stay creative, my friends. We need more of that in this world, especially now. Have a great night.